Well, hey there, guys. Professor Bates here. Wanted to kind of go over some things with the Rogerian argument. I know this one can be a little tough. It's a very different essay than you wrote for your classical version. Um, so let me see if I can share here. All right. You know, when we're talking about a Rogerian argument, there are a lot of things that we need to kind of keep in mind. We're not trying to really win the argument here. We're trying to, well, basically come to a compromise. That's the whole point here. So that's going to be a little bit different than what you may be used to doing. Um, the layout of your essay is essentially going to be similar to this five-step model. The first thing you're going to need to do is introduce the problem. All right. And this is the problem that you discussed in your first essay um, in the classical model. But in this case, you're going to acknowledge the problem that you took a side on. And then, strangely, the first paragraph after that is going to acknowledge the other side of the argument. And this could take a couple of paragraphs. So you're really going to start by talking about the opposite side that you argued in the classical essay. Um, Finally, once you do that, you can go ahead and carefully present your side of the issue, but you want to do it in a way that does not dismiss the other side. So again, you're going to be fairly empathetic to the other side of the argument. And then again, that could take a couple of paragraphs. Then you begin to bring the two sides together. You help your reader find the benefits of the middle ground. And you make your proposal for the middle ground here. And, again, you're still using that respectful tone. And it's probably, again, going to take a couple of paragraphs. Then finally, in your conclusion, you remind your readers about this balanced perspective that you have on the idea or the problem, and you make it clear how both sides will benefit in your proposed middle ground solution. Here's another look at basically the same thing. So introduction talks about the problem. Number two, you talk about the opposite side of your viewpoint in the classical argument. You may even want to talk a little bit about why that side has some things correct, that they're right in some ways. Then you can finally talk about your side of the argument and the advantages of that. And you're going to kind of eventually end up in a place where you're saying, look, my way is preferable, but the other side does have some good arguments. And again, stay away from that first person I. You want to stay in third person. And then your conclusion is going to talk about how the common goals and shared values make this work. And that's going to be how you're going to wrap it up. Let me give you an example here. One of my students is writing about the federal legalization of medical marijuana. And I think what she found out is, almost half the United States has agreed to some type of legalization, primarily medical, but the other half has not. And so she was arguing in favor of federal legalization of marijuana due to the fact that it does have some medical value for pain relief, anxiety relief, that kind of thing. All right. Now, when she does her Rogerian version, the first thing she's going to have to do is, talk about some of the problem that we have right now in the United States, which is kind of a semi-legal situation, but not universally legal in every state. Then she's going to go on and talk about the opposite side. She's going to mention some of the hazards of using marijuana. And she's going to have to do some research on that. I've got a few sources here that I'll show you, I mean, this is where you're going to have to educate yourself on the opposite side. I don't expect you guys to know this stuff. You're going to have to find it using the databases and your research. So let's say, for instance, that you're using uh, an article called "Marijuana Should Not Be Legalized." Okay, and in that particular argument, they talk about some of the health benefit or health side effects. Smoke's damaging to your lungs. Some people might actually have an increase in mental problems rather than a decrease. Um, Maybe the idea that if you're under 21 and your brain is still forming, you should not be using this stuff. And she's going to include that in her side A overview and her side A validation. But I don't think you can really do that until you have found some additional sources. Then she's going to go back and do an overview of her position, the fact that it should be legalized, but she's going to take into account some of the counter argument too, and try to find a common ground, some kind of a middle path, if you will. And that's probably going to mean legalization with some conditions. Maybe a doctor has to give you a physical examination before you can get a prescription. Maybe you have to go through a mental evaluation. Maybe you have to prove your age, these kinds of things. In other words, some guidance toward legalization, but not without some concessions to the other side to hopefully mitigate some of these negatives. Again, the assignment, you want to make sure that you're looking at some of these articles, these PowerPoint presentations, follow the models, understand what it means to make a compromise in an essay, how to be more open to the other side as opposed to just your side. Definitely want to look at that. There is a peer review assignment where you may get a little bit of feedback from your fellow students, but I would mainly think in terms of looking in the book, the examples in Moodle, and perhaps even sending it to the Writing Center. So, the next big thing, guys, is to get this Rogerian essay rough draft written, and then to take whatever feedback you can get and edit it, proofread it, make it as good as you can, and then go ahead and get it turned into to Moodle before the deadline. So I wish you luck on this assignment, guys, and just take your time, make sure you're using an outline, check your work, and I look forward to reading what you come up with. Thanks, guys.